That intro didn't really have much to do with the main part of this video, but seeing as this is a very general topic, I thought it was a little bit open-ended. But of course, I hope you enjoyed those shots nonetheless. In this video, I'm gonna do something that I haven't really done in the past, and I'm just gonna throw out a bunch of random tips to help you improve your footage, whether that be getting better lighting outside, ways you can add depth to your footage, or stabilizing handheld footage. A lot of these tips are just one step away and will have a major impact on the way your final video comes out. But before we get into this, I do briefly want to shout out Uppbeat. I've been using Uppbeat to license the music in all of my videos for the past several months now, and beyond being supportive of me and creators in general, I genuinely think that they have the best free music library out there. Uppbeat isn't sponsoring this video, but I am an ambassador with Uppbeat, so if you sign up using the link in my description, I will get a little bit of a kickback from that. It's completely free. I recommend that you check that out. That being said, let's work our way from the beginning, starting with having a plan for how your final video will come out. When I say that, I'm not really talking about a shot list or a script. You really can just open a Google Doc and start writing down some of your ideas. Storytelling is important, and one of the best ways to ensure that you're telling a story is by writing down your idea or concept beforehand, and then portraying that story or concept while you're shooting the video. And yes, casually going out and shooting something without a story is fine, but if you want to be making something that your viewers are going to remember, it's important to make sure you have a concept or a story. Even if this concept is just a certain mood, like loneliness or euphoria, it's still gonna add a lot to your video than not having one at all. For example, to make more of a lonely feeling, you can shoot with slower movements and maybe shoot on a cloudy day. So just by taking that extra time to write down a plan beforehand, you will heavily impact the final video. If you want to see an in-depth video about planning your videos, I'll have one linked in the cards. Next up, we have backlighting. Now this one really can make a huge difference on your shots. Simply by turning on a backlight, I can separate myself from the background and add a bunch more depth into the shot. Geez, that is really satisfying. If you shoot most of your videos outdoors like I do, you can follow this rule just by changing your camera angle. If I am the subject, I want the sun to be behind me rather than in front of me. This also contributes to having softer lighting as well. For example, from this scene in True Grit, you can see that they're always trying to keep the sun behind their subjects. If you want a full tutorial about shooting videos outside, I'll have that linked in the cards as well. My next tip is to always have some kind of foreground in your shot. You guys know me, I love using foreground in every single opportunity I can. Most shots are just midground and background, and by adding that extra foreground layer, you're gonna have a full range of depth and your shot is gonna look much more three-dimensional. But this doesn't always have to be something obvious like a fern or a plant. Sometimes this can be something like particles, fog, or lens flares. There are several places where you can get assets like these for free. For example, Production Crate. They have a ton of stock overlays and video assets like rain, fog, dust, and they also have stuff like explosions. And little things like these really help add that extra bit of realism and depth to your shot. In the opening shot from True Grit, they added a bunch of particles into the scene, and that really helped bring some life into the shot, despite there literally being a dead person in the shot. If you couldn't tell by now, True Grit is becoming one of my favorite movies. If you want to see an entire video about foreground and adding depth, I'm going to link that up there. My next tip is stabilizing your handheld footage. There are several ways to go about doing this, my favorite being pulling the camera strap tight and using that to stabilize the footage. A couple other ways to do this is by turning on image stabilization in your camera's settings. The most effective of these image stabilization is IBIS. This is when your sensor literally shifts around to compensate for all the shakes that come from handheld shooting. Unfortunately, most cameras don't have IBIS, but they probably have some other form of image stabilization inside it, and I encourage you to take a look at that, see how it works, and keep it turned on if it does work. If you don't have a camera strap or IBIS, my best advice to you is to move your lower body more than your upper body. Movements like lunging, squatting, tiptoeing will all give you smoother movements than any movement coming from your hands. So, don't skip leg day. Another great tip is to shoot in a flat picture profile. I have gotten asked, why would you do this? My image looks super flat, there's barely any color, there's no contrast. But the reason for doing this is increasing the dynamic range. By lowering the contrast, you keep more detail in the highlights and shadows, ultimately saving color data and making it easier to expose for. It also makes grading a lot easier because you have that extra color data to work with and you can push colors a little bit further. So you'll just have a better shot, a better grade, it's just better. That being said, all these tips mean nothing if you aren't going to be putting them to good use. So I encourage you after this video to create something, and if you do, send it to me and I will gladly give you my personal feedback on it. But that is all I have to share with you today. I hope you guys learned something or found a technique to try out in all of your work, and if you did, please feel free to like this video, or if you want to continue to support my work, please subscribe to my channel. I upload a new filmmaking video every single week. Don't forget to sign up for Uppbeat in the description. And with that being said, stay safe, stay creative, and I will see you in the next one. So hot. I don't know why I wore that for the entire video. That was so uncomfortable.